everybody. Wonderful. This is the Fiedler Audio live stream, episode number 10. And today we have a special treat for you. And the first treat, of course, is Mr. Thomas Fiedler himself is with us again. Hey, Thomas, how are you?
Hi, fine, and you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Challenging times, just from the dailies, but for the first time, without any hiccup, we got the live stream starting on time, being live on time. So wonderful, and thank you to everybody who is joining us today. And let's dive in immediately in today's subject. What we had discussed, Thomas and I, and then thought it would be a great idea to, shed a light on this is I published a Dolby Atmos mix on the streamers and on Apple Spatial Audio, and ran into the situation, which is a well-known situation, that the binaural settings you use in the Dolby Atmos composer or in the Dolby Atmos renderer will be ignored when you transfer your project to Apple Spatial Audio. And you lose a little bit of space, basically. And then we realized or remembered that the perfect solution for creating space with a lot of unparalleled features is possible with the advanced features of Spacelab Interstellar. And Thomas today is happy and willing to show us basically what's possible with Spacelab, and the only solution so far, as I know, worldwide, that you can create real space distance of objects that is maintained when you bring your project then over to also the Apple Spatial Audio situation. So, Thomas, would you like to take over and explain a little bit more for us to get into this, and then you have some examples and some presentations of some possible workflows there for us as well.
Yes, of course. Yeah, welcome everybody. This is, well, kind of a little clickbait, you can say, the title, because I suppose everybody knows who is doing some kind of a Dolby Atmos that when you mix in Dolby Atmos, you can select between 4 different settings for binaural for each channel. So to have a more influence about how your mix sounds on headphones. And people like Tom Wendt, for example, and other mixers who publish also through Apple Music, they know that these settings, these binaural settings, get ignored by Apple. The reason for this is that they do a different kind of binauralization than the original Dolby renderer, which is used in Amazon Music and Tidal. They basically take a 714 mix of your Dolby Atmos mix, or a 714 version of your Dolby Atmos mix, and binauralize that 714. And so technically from the Dolby side, this is a render to speakers. So naturally no binaural settings are applied when you render to speakers. So therefore these settings get lost. And this is a kind of an unfortunate situation, because we as mixers, as engineers, we want that when our work gets distributed, it sounds as we want it to sound. And on binaural, it's very important that you can actually do something about the perceived distance of sources, for which these 4 kind of primitive settings in Dolby Atmos have been created, so that you can actually have sources which are not binauralized at all, which is something you cannot do on Apple Music, because everything gets binauralized. And then you have the three other settings, near, mid, and far. Near meaning it is binauralized, but without any additional reverberation, without anything which could create some distance. Then you have mid, which is the standard setting, which has a little bit of room added, and then you have far, which adds quite a lot of room. And that's basically what happens in these binaural settings on Dolby. And but these settings don't get, as I already said, don't get translated to Apple Music. So, and there's another way to do this, to get the same effect, which then works on both the Dolby renderer and also the Apple renderer. And the way of doing it is using explicit reverb, using Spatial. And now I'm going to share my screen. I have prepared a session, and I will show you how this is easily achieved. Now you should see my screen. It's a very simple Logic session. The reason I set it up in Logic is because we have also very easy the possibility to monitor in Apple Spatial Audio. If you are using another DAW, you instead of using Logic, you can use the Audio Movers plugin if you're on Mac, and listen through that Audio Movers plugin or standalone version, depending on your workflow, also to Spatial Audio from Apple. And just as a side note, we will also build in Apple Spatial Audio monitoring into the Dolby Atmos Composer and mastering console soon. And we will most likely also come up with a solution for that for Windows. So stay tuned for that. But now we are just using Logic so that you can get an idea of the principle. So here we have a small session. I will just quickly play it. I just have selected here a loop. It has a dry voice, some acoustic drums, and an acoustic guitar. I have set it up in that way that the Dolby Atmos Composer is in the master channel, and I have three Dolby Atmos beams, one on each of these channels, which appear here on the left side in our mix. There's no fancy panning going on. It's just set up straightforward like that, so that you can have an idea. This is a typical Dolby Atmos mixing session, and I will just hit play. Also, I didn't touch yet the configuration. All binaural settings are set to mid, the standard setting in Dolby Atmos, and that sounds like this.
Like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
So that's the part of the song which we today will use as an example. The voice, I selected the voice because with human voices, the ear can very nicely distinguish between the voice itself and anything which is added to it, which you might have noticed already that there's some kind of room on the voice. And this is actually due to the fact that the binaural settings are set to mid. So in that setting, there's a little bit of room of it. Also, I selected the acoustic drums to have some transient signal, in the mix, so that we can also hear very good if there's anything added to it, some room or something like that, and the guitar to accompany the whole mix, so to say. So now let me change quickly the whole settings to near, so that you hear how it sounds without this added room.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone.
So as you could hear, now it's really dry. The voice is really dry. There's no room at all. And just for your information, I will also set it to far so that you can hear how this rather extreme setting sounds.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone.
So as you can hear, there's a lot of room of it. Everything sounds like we are in kind of a living room and far back into the room. Hence the name far. Now, to make it work as we want to make it work, so that it also works on Apple Spatial Audio, we want to use our own reverb. So I recommend setting everything to near so that we don't have this Atmos renderer room built on top on it and on top of it. So now it's totally dry again. And just for comparison, we can also let's listen again to the near setting, and then let's compare the near setting to the Apple Spatial Audio.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
Okay, we have to switch off the binaural of the composer. Then we have an output of 714. By the way, I set the surround format of Logic to 714 to make it possible. And then we just activate this plugin in Logic, which is the Apple renderer, which now renders the 714 signal, which is output by the composer, to the Apple Spatial Audio version of Dolby Atmos. Let's listen.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
Okay, now you could hear that it sounds a little bit different than the Dolby renderer. Let's switch back to the Dolby renderer. There's a tiny bit of room which Apple added to that to not have it totally dry, to make it a little more appearing like the mid setting of the original Dolby Atmos renderer, but it's not quite that much. So it's something in between near and mid, which in that case works to our advantage. And so the easiest way to get going with the binaural setting, so to say, we use Spacelab. Spacelab immediately appears, as you can see here, immediately appears here in the list. Let's call it binaural settings. So we have the binaural settings, the Spacelab we use for that. We just named it, and prior to this session, I created a preset in Spacelab, which is almost identical to the room sound at mid and far in the Dolby Atmos renderers, to have something which we can compare with. Okay, now one more thing we have to do. We have to switch off the dry signal, and we can easily just use this Spacelab instance in the send and return fashion. There's also another way which is more sophisticated and which has more possibilities, which I will just show afterwards. But this is like the entry level to solving this binaural dilemma, if you will. Okay, so the reverb is correctly set up, dry is switched off, the right preset is chosen. So the only thing I have to do now is use the sends on these three channels to send my signal to Spacelab to give it the additional room information I want. So let's start with the vocals. So, Tom, can you switch off your microphone? There's some music going on in the background.
I thought it was, so I have to switch it off here, no problem. It's the drum session in the workshop room. It's off. Come on.
Thank you. Great. Okay, so now we have, I have just enabled the bus and I will play and just turn up the send until I'm satisfied with it.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
Okay, that's for the voice. Let's do the same thing for the rest.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home. And don't cry me a river like you're alone.
So when I stopped, you could hear that a little bit of reverb tail was heard. It's similar to that what the Dolby renderer offers. Let's play it again. And the cool thing here with the Dolby with the Spacelab solution is that you can easily switch off and on that what you have just adjusted to really A/B compare what it is without the binaural additional reverb and what it sounds with your settings. So let's start with the reverb muted, and then during playback I will demute it, and you can listen to the difference.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
Cool. So that's basically all you have to do to get started with different binaural settings. Let's check how that difference sounds in the Apple Spatial renderer.
Oh, again, so let me see if the stream comes up in a second. I got the turning wheel. Bear with us. Ah, there we are again. Okay.
Okay, I have to get back to Zoom. Zoom.
So you were cut off when you were about to show the binaural settings in the spatial audio mode.
Okay.
So
Okay.
but we're back again.
We are back again. Perfect. Nice. Okay.
Sorry.
So then I will share again. That was one hiccup we have to have. Okay, back. So where was I? I was showing the different binaural settings in the Apple Spatial Audio. So you did hear the complete. You did hear the different settings in the Dolby renderer, but you didn't hear it in the Apple Spatial Audio renderer, right? Okay, I guess so. Though let me play
Yes,
back again.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so let me play it back again. First with muted, with the setting muted, and then I will put it on during playback.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
Okay, so as you could hear, here also the difference can clearly be observed, and in that way you can have your binaural settings in both spatial or in both Apple Spatial Audio and the Dolby Atmos renderer, which is used on Tidal and Amazon Music. Now you might ask, does it interfere with other reverbs? No, because this is just very subtle. I mean, this is a little bit more than subtle here, just to show the difference. But usually you do that in a subtle way to get some different distances for different sources. And so let's see how it works together with a different reverb or with another reverb. So let's put up another Spacelab instance on the second bus, switch off dry. I leave the preset as is. This is just a nice large hall. And let's call it vocal verb. I will send the vocals there to give them some actual spaciousness, which I actually want because of creative decisions. Let's also switch back from spatial audio to the internal renderer here. And I'm going to play back and dial in the vocal reverb, the actual vocal reverb.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home. And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
Now that's a tail. So as you can hear, the voice stands beautifully in the room, and it has a really nice reverb attached to it. So you can see that these binaural settings, this reverb from the binaural settings, because it is very subtle, doesn't actually disturb. Let's listen to it on spatial audio.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
Beautiful. Now let me just do one more thing, just for you to really listen again to the difference. Let me switch back to the internal renderer. I will, during playback, leave the vocal verb on and just turn on and off the binaural settings so that you really hear the difference and what this binaural reverberation here really adds to the mix.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home. And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
Now the same thing in Apple Spatial Audio.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home. And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
So in both formats you could hear, I hope you could hear it, that once these binaural settings is turned on, the mix gets more solid and the voice actually stands better in the room. It's not so narrow on the nose or even inside the head, but it really gets outside of the head and it really stands in the room. And the subtle binaural reverb which was added doesn't compete at all with the actual vocal reverb. And this counts for any application, so to say. And in this way you can really have it anywhere you want. Now you might ask, but since this is not a binaural only setting, but this is actually added to the mix, what happens with speaker playback? Well, unfortunately, we cannot give you a speaker playback through YouTube, but I have two other plugins here hooked up after the composer. One is Virtuoso, so we can do the same listening test through Virtuoso, which is a binauralizer which simulates an actual studio environment. So I will again start with the binaural settings muted and then switch it on again.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home. And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
And for comparison, I can also use the binaural part of SpaceLab to listen to another kind of virtual studio environment. Let's listen again first without, and then during the playback I will switch on and off the binaural settings.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home. And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
So as you can see or hear, even the speaker mixes benefit from this kind of doing things. Why? There are several reasons why. The first reason is that our ear always wants to have some acoustic environment to relate to, because this is what we are used to in our natural hearing, in our natural environments, and by giving each source, by not letting them totally dry, but giving them a very subtle but consistent reverb, they will sit much better in the room without actually losing directness. And the second benefit is also that a very subtle reverb will also help the precision when panning, especially when you have panned some objects in between speakers. If they are tightly on a speaker, directly on one speaker alone, then the perceived direction of the object will be very precise naturally, because it's just one physical speaker in real space. But if you pan between speakers, then some kind of phantom image is created. But this creating of a phantom source only works in front of your nose. When you have speakers on your side and you have something panned in between these speakers on your side, then this phantom sourcing or this phantom positioning doesn't work as well as it does in front of you, because of the position of our ears and because of why or how this phantom imaging actually works. So by giving it a little bit of reverb, this actually gets more precise in our perception, because we still hear it from the side, but the brain compares the coloration of the signal, of the direct signal, with the coloration of the overall reverb. And since the coloration of the overall reverb stays constant because it's coming out all the time from all speakers, so it doesn't change, but when you have a source moving around, then you will hear that when the source moves, you hear that the coloration of this source of this object changes depending on the direction. So the brain compares this coloration with the coloration of the reverb, and therefore gives you a more precise sense of direction. So this is actually beyond binaural settings. It's a general mixing tip for immersive audio, for things which come from all sides, which are supposed to come from all sides. And another thing I noted is also
Thomas,
yeah.
Could you close the screen, because it's easier to follow for the people if they would see you, I guess, during the explanations. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Another thing which could be noted, that no matter which of these four monitoring options I choose, once I switched the so-called binaural settings on, immediately the mix became more consistent. It had, you could say, more meat in it. It wasn't so sparse, so small actually. And by doing it this way, you actually have a way to make your mix better on any setup, wherever you are, wherever you're listening. And there's another thing. In this binaural settings reverb, I just tried to mimic the room which was given, which is used by Dolby in their own binaural settings. But you are not bound to that. You can also change that to any other kind of setting. You can make the room bigger, you can make it smaller, just depending on what feels right for your music style. So you can make it also the room bigger and push the sources further into the space, and give it a feeling which is just bigger, without actually making the reverb obvious. This is something which I think is very important to make it really work, that the reverb is, you can just perceive that it's there without actually hearing the reverb. And this is the easy way to it. There's also another way. I won't say it's difficult, but it's more a little more complex. But it gives you yet another option to really make more adjustments.
Yeah.
You want to say something?
Nee, I want to ask something.
Okay.
And looking forward to the other option as well. I was just wondering, would it be possible then also with your method you just showed to have to take some sources out of that room equation?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
like for example, if I want to keep the left and right bone dry, but everything else should have that
Yes, of course. You can
defines it.
you can just if you for example use the method of having Dolby Atmos beams on buses, and you have one Atmos beam for each section or for each speaker pair, so to say. Then just don't send anything from the. If you want to have the front, left, and right totally dry, then don't send anything to the reverb. Then you are dry as you can possibly get. You just need to be aware, or just need to make sure that in the composer you have set everything to near. I mean, if you want to have something to not binauralized at all, that will only affect the Dolby Atmos renderer, because on Apple Music everything is somehow binauralized. But if you stay near, then you are basically most compatible, and the near setting really doesn't have any added room information to it. So so that way you can actually choose which part of your signal, how deep into the room you want to push it. So, and well, let's get on to the second method, which is even more interesting. Let me share my screen again. Okay, here we go. So, the second method basically consists of not panning in the Dolby Atmos beam. I choose this method to show first because it's a little more straightforward. You have maybe you also have your Atmos mix already somehow going, and you just wanted to switch away from your binaural setting inside the using the Dolby settings, but you want to get more universal. But if you're starting from especially if you're starting from scratch, you can basically choose any method. So the second method consists of panning inside Spacelab. For that to make it happen, we can just kill all the Dolby Atmos beams here, because we will just send everything to Spacelab. So we also kill the sense. We don't need the sense anymore, because everything is done inside Spacelab. So what we need instead is we need the Spacelab beams. Let's put a Spacelab beam on each track instead of the Dolby Atmos beam. Sorry, that was a mistake. Let's make it a Spacelab beam. So now we have 3 Spacelab beams here. And inside Spacelab, which we used for the binaural settings, we have to switch on dry, of course, because now the mixing and panning happens inside. And we have to get these 3 tracks into Spacelab, of course. So first let's connect the first one to the voices. Let's connect the second one to the drums. And let's connect the third one to the guitar. And okay, let's set them also to stereo. And this one also, because by default they are just in front of us when you add some new sources. So now we have our 3 tracks in Spacelab. And if we really want to start from scratch, so we have to turn dry wet to dry only for all sources, and then we can basically add again what we just did, but a little more sophistication, because here in Spacelab, before the Spacelab only had a stereo input, so everything was processed through the same objects. But in Spacelab, each object gets its own early reflection set depending on the position in space. So what we can do basically here is to position them also differently in space. For example, if I want to have the drums sounding way back into the room, I just also put them physically into the room. For the voices, which are those orange sources, I leave them at this place because I want to have only a little bit of binaural and let's put these guitars a little bit more to the sides, also a little further away. So, and let's give them a little bit of color. Let's make the drums blue, and the guitars, let's make them green. Okay, now we can also distinguish green guitar, orange voices, blue is the drums. Okay, and if I now play them back, they all will be rendered to the composite, which is here, the composite. So here we have the binaural settings, reverb, and everything is appearing here. So you can either pen them to the composite, or if you really want to have them as objects, you can switch them to objects as well. So, well, let's leave them as objects. So if they are appearing as objects, they naturally are set to mid, so we also need to set them to near, so that everything is set to the same thing. And now we are basically ready to start. So let's play back and add, with using the dry wet sliders for each of these objects or each of these sources, the desired amount of binaural settings. Nothing's coming. Why is nothing coming here? Oh, yeah, we need to actually also create the correct routing. This I forgot. The correct routing is that, hey, and so that the tracks where Spatial beam is, they have to be routed to the Spatial so that the audio actually arrives.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home. And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
Okay, now it's set. We can again with the mute of the entire Spatial we can we have to do it in Spatial because otherwise the whole thing will be muted. So we can just compare by switching off wet to hear it without the settings and then without.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home. And don't cry me a river like you're alone.
Great, now we have them back. So this way we can do all the panning inside, and we get also the reverb more distinguished for each and every source. And now, well, the vocal reverb was gone. That is because the Spatial beam doesn't let our audio through by default, but this can be remedied by just switching on the pass-through, and we get our vocal reverb back.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
Great. So, and now, since I told you that each object has its own individual binaural setting, individual early reflection pattern, depending on the position, yes, that also translates to motions. So if we, for example, take the voices and move them around, the reverb changes, the binaural settings will change as well. Let's check that out.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
So that beautifully translates to binaural. So in that way, Spacelab, when you move something in Spacelab for each position adapts the early reflection patterns to make it even more realistic. And there are also some advanced settings on the reverb tab in object rendering. So that's just a gimmick which I'll give at last, and then we can take some questions. You can actually adjust that the source the dry part of the source gets less volume the further you move away, and the reverb part stays the same. This is done by distance gain dry, so you can actually pull that down. And let's move away the sources, the voices, to see what happens.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
Well, since I switched it on, obviously the levels don't match anymore. So we would have to adjust a little bit, because the drums are very far into the room, so they have very little dry. So we can adjust for that using the dry, or we can move them closer. Let's move them closer a little bit to get a good sound.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
So this way you really have a lot of options to adjust your for the sake of for sake of a name, let's call it binaural settings, to your liking, to really solidify the mix. And of course, as I said, you can also change the room. So let's switch off the vocal reverb, and let's make the binaural setting reverb a little bigger.
And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home. And don't cry me a river like you're alone. We've been here for a minute. This is our home. This is our home.
So the possibilities are endless. Yeah, and that's it. This is the introduction, so you could say. There are a lot of more options here on the reverb page to further refine things, but that should give you a good idea on how to get going with really tweaking your mix in the spatial domain for any kind of binaural rendering algorithm, but also for speakers.
This is fantastic. I haven't been into Spacelab so deeply as you just showed it right now. And well, I remember when Spacelab started, we had some experiments with this, and basically that's. I mean, if you would dream of Dolby Atmos or a spatial audio, I mean, that's basically the concept that's working how it should be. Like you don't have 128 channels, which is then again studio mixing board universe, but just having your, okay, here's my vocals and I move them to some place in space.
Yeah.
That's beautifully done in Space Lab. So wonderful. Yeah, and of course when this translates to any format, and you only have to deal with the slight binauralization that's happening in the spatial audio realm with Apple.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I nearly forgot. Thanks again for showing this, and of course everybody else out there will be should be pretty inspired to deal with that, because especially when you have some acoustic instruments and you want to have some real nice positioning, as you were showing, where they are and how they are connected to each other, that gives
Yes.
much more precision, and this is maintained with Dolby Atmos mixes. So yeah, looking forward to some things we might hear from you guys out there soon.
Yeah.
And most probably this brings me to the thing we discussed, I think it was 2 shows ago, when there was the gentleman who said that he's working with the classical guitars. And it happened just today that I was just sent 2 recordings of a classical guitar from a great player, a friend of ours, and I haven't listened yet, so I don't know how it is and what it is, but potentially we could go into the next session for the next stream and show how this would work to position them and come up with a great natural mix that actually happens in a room
Yeah.
seamlessly.
Yeah, this room information, sorry for interrupt, this room information
Sure.
which is added by these so-called binaural settings, because I mean it goes beyond binaural, but here you can hear it very nicely. It immediately adds some emotional impact. This is my feeling, because it's not so thin in the room, but it adds something what we which makes us feel, how can I put it, which makes us feel we are there with the musician, we are there with where the music happens, so to say. So it's not something abstract. usually if we have dry stereo mixes with where the main sources are very into the face and very dry, they sound they might sound wide on headphones, but they also sound dry. They don't sound that they don't immerse you, so to say, like you are with the music, you are in the music. And with this little subtle addition of reverberation, you actually get there. And I think this will be one of the keys to actually make Dolby Atmos mixes convincing and able to compete with stereo and even surpass stereo on headphones, which is something I think we are looking forward to on the streamers as well, to really get the Atmos mixes stand out, so that people say, wow, I couldn't believe how we could listen to stereo before that. How this is so much better, this Atmos thing, and the potential is there, as we could have an idea of today.
Yeah, and this reminds me also of the workshop I attended at NAMM with Mr. Andrew Sheps, where he was briefly discussing this, how is it called, the exterioration. Is it possible to get out of the headphones, really? And I think the potential of that Spacelab solution there would be to get really, if you enlarge the room even to something ridiculous, you could really have some objects sound like they were outside of your headphones, and that's also something that's that should be really desirable for
Definitely.
producers. Yeah, wonderful, awesome. So should we have a look at our visitors here and see if there are some questions to the things you just showed
Yes.
for a moment, and I think everybody is awed completely because it's got a little bit quiet, but there were some things before. I don't know if you would like to address them.
Yeah, well, Da Vinci Girl asked why near. Well, the setting near takes away the room information which is added by the Dolby Atmos, by Dolby's own binaural renderer when you have it on mid on far. And that is preferably in this way because we use Spacelab to add the room information we want to have to get things further out into the room. And to have that not overlapping, we switch it to near. And in that way also you have the full spectrum. Very close, mid and far. You can do everything by Spacelab and you're not limited into your, let's say, sonic intimacy by the Dolby algorithm.
Very good, cool. And there was another thing about some binaural stuff.
Well, I see here something here. Is it possible to add a preset where to start the binaural settings in Spacelab? Yeah, I mean, I can make this preset, which I just created here, I can make it available, but you can basically start from any room if you want. There are small rooms inside the preset folder, so you can start with, depends on what you have in mind, with smaller or bigger rooms to get going. Then you adjust it. You basically, what you need to adjust is the room, the reverberation time. What I had now was a reverberation time. Let's check. It was at 260 milliseconds or 0.26 seconds. It's almost linear. And yeah, that's basically it. And no pre-delay, because otherwise you would have too much direct signal compared to the reverb. And that's basically it. This is the more or less the room, which is used by Dolby. I took a little bit away about around 250 and 500 hertz because that's where things get muddy usually, to take a little bit away from the mud. And then you have a very clear sounding small room, which gets you close to that what you can do in the Dolby settings. But of course you are free to adjust.
Very good. And maybe the gentleman Silver Keys, his questions have been asked because on how to balance the mixes in terms of where the signals are for the binaural stuff and the spatial audio situation. That's what I ran into a little bit because the whole setup where the signals are shifts a little bit when you get into the Apple spatial audio level. But with what we've been showing just right now, you can make sure that what you hear when you're mixing your binaural stuff, that it will be translated as you hear it also to spatial audio.
Yeah, I mean, you can listen to the binaural renderer of the composer, the Dolby renderer itself. You can listen to the spatial audio renderer of Apple. And as I was showing before, you can also use some simulation like Spacelab itself or Virtuoso, which basically is, Virtuoso is an impulse response based binauralizer. And it has impulse responses from different studios, and you can very, very nicely customize it to your need. And according to famous engineers, it translates very well to speakers. So and additionally, if you use a head tracker together with this binauralization, you can turn your head around and listen. Does it really come from all sides as I wanted, or is something not right, or is it well balanced and whatnot? So yeah, I think this gives you a lot of monitoring options. And then, of course, I can only recommend, especially when you start out mixing Atmos, to get some experience to also at some point listen to your mixes on speakers and compare to the headphone experience to check out what things you have to keep in mind when mixing on headphones to make it sound right on speakers. But in the end, when we are talking about music, headphones is the most important thing. So I would always prioritize when I have to make a decision which makes either the headphone experience better or the speaker experience better. I would always prioritize the speaker experience because, as they say, 99.9% listen to Atmos on headphones. So this is where you would want it optimal. But anyway, I think there's a great potential to get everything sounding nicely.
That's for sure. And well, it's only nuances. And I just wanted to make sure when you say speakers, you mean a Dolby Atmos system.
Yeah.
Loudspeakers. Like Dolby Atmos setup, not stereo set of speakers.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
Right, of course. Yeah, wonderful. Let's take another look. Did something...
Well, Silver Keys asked something else, and also if you have something on how you should balance your commercial mixes. Is it fine to have them leaning towards front, or should you aim for consistent sound from all directions? That's a creative decision. It all depends on the music style and what you actually want to achieve. If you want to make some kind of, I don't know, meditation music or something like that, you might want to have coming everything from all sides. If you want to have reproduce a rock concert, then many things will come from the front. And of course, I mean, there are so many possibilities in between. That's really a creative decision. Just think about that the music that you have the emotional impact you want. Try to not only listen with your ears or with your intellect from where should things come. Try to listen with your feelings. Does it make you feel good, or does it make you feel weird, or does it convince you, or doesn't convince it? So these are the things you need to keep in mind and experiment. It's really a matter of what your music is, and it's the same thing as with stereo mixes. The mixing should support the story of the music. Each music track has a story, and it's like telling a story. So, and this storyline has to be supported by the mix. So when you have quiet parts, you make room, you make it spacious. And when you have everything in the tutti, when everything comes together and everything plays together, you want to have it full and filled up. And you want to have the right balancing between the different parts. And this can be done not only with volume, with the different mixing levels of each instrument, but also with the placement. Now you have the real dimension with the placement. When you're on stereo, you basically have only two speakers within which everything has to happen. So you have some space for panning, and you have some space for depth further away, closer to you. But now you have another dimension which you can also employ for telling the story. So think about your music as a story, and how these emotional that what should be conveyed emotionally, how that actually gets to the listener, and how convincing is it, how it really takes you into the music.
So it was muted. Thanks a lot. And yes, so Mr. Silver Keys, we don't know if it's Mr. Silver Keys seems to be happy with the answers. And Awesome. As you were just explaining that, I was wondering, I mean, of course, that can be done, but it would be a lot of work. I mean, in a perfect world, we would have in the Dolby Atmos Composer the choice between the Dolby Atmos binaural settings, and if we have a Spacelab installed, like the possibility to select, you know, a Spacelab room situation there. So I don't. Oh, you're thinking. You start to think again. No. There are other things which are much more important, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
But
touch
you know
it
what
right
I
now.
mean, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. You want to streamline the process, that you really have just a few buttons and a slider, and you can just dial it in the same way, with the same ease as you would dial in the binaural settings of Dolby itself. So, yeah,
If you
maybe
would-
maybe
if
something
you
in the
would have-
future.
Yeah, if you would have not this off, near, mid, and far for each speaker or object channel, that you would have just a pod where you can
Yeah.
say far, very far,
Yeah,
infinite, horizon.
yeah,
Yeah, from zero to
100.
horizon. That
Yeah.
would be really, really cool, and people would come up with the super crazy stuff. But
Yeah.
still, if you have a Spacelab and you get into this mechanics, you can also do super creative stuff in terms of the room that translates to all your playback platforms as well.
yeah. And since it was asked several times, the live stream will stay on the YouTube channel, so you will be able to come back and revisit it to see it again, to get if you have some doubt about how it was done. So and you can of course start out with the send and return approach, which I showed first, which is easier to set up. It's more straightforward, and you already get great results.
Wonderful. And first of all, to not forget it, Spacelab Interstellar and Spacelab
Ignition.
Ignition it is. They are available as demo versions, of course, from the website. And there's a sale going on right now.
Yeah, Bundle Mayhem. Go get them.
Bundle Mayhem. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
All bundles on sale.
Wonderful. Yeah, so I would say if we don't have any burning questions left, we could wrap it up at this point and revisit this subject maybe whenever you like. So the video, of course, will be up on YouTube, and if you have more questions, just put these questions then next to the video. We can address them then in the next stream as well, or answer them directly in the comments. And
Yeah.
thanks a lot for watching, you guys, and
Yes.
Mr. Fiedler, of course. Thanks again for these amazing tools and these amazing insights, which should feed our creativity.
Yes, hopefully.
Awesome. Then take care, everybody. Have a great, the weekend is close, and
Yeah.
see you for the next stream. Thank
Yeah.
you. Oh, there's one more. No, okay. We say bye for now. See you soon.
Bye bye.